And Robert Mugabe, Zimbabwe's first post-independence leader, has died at the age of 95. Now, Mugabe, the world's oldest head of state, had been receiving treatment in a hospital in Singapore since April. He was hospitalized for months for an undisclosed ailment and the passing of the former president who ruled Zimbabwe for close to 4 decades before being ousted in a military takeover in November 2017 marks the definitive end of an era in the history of a former British colony.
Robert Mugabe died in Singapore, where he made frequent visits to receive medical care in recent months as his health deteriorated. The death was announced by his successor, Emmerson Mnangagwa, who mourned him as an icon of liberation. In November, Mnangagwa said Mugabe was no longer able to walk when he had been admitted to a hospital in Singapore without saying what treatment Mugabe had been undergoing. The former president was born under British colonial rule in 1924, the son of Bona and Gabriel, a carpenter. Despite poor school and job prospects for most blacks, the young Mugabe gained a Jesuit education and thrived in academia. He concentrated on his studies, qualifying as a school teacher at the age of 17. Mugabe, who ruled the Southern African nation for nearly 4 decades since independence from Britain in 1980, was forced to resign in November 2017 after an army coup. After his humiliating fall from office, his phenomenal physical stamina seeped away rapidly. Mugabe was placed under house arrest with fears he would allow his deeply unpopular wife, Grace, to usurp constitutional power. Robert Mugabe once quipped he would rule Zimbabwe until he turned 100. He very nearly achieved his goal. He first came to power in 1980, a hero in the fight against white minority rule and a legend even in the West. In office, he was credited with education reforms and forcing reconciliation between blacks and whites. But even then, Mugabe's reputation for repression had begun. During his 37-year rule of Zimbabwe, the leader built up an impressive amount of controversy, mostly by using colorful language.
He whom I had nurtured and brought into government, and whose life I had worked so hard in prison to save, as he was threatened with hanging.
Mugabe's efforts at reconciliation faded quickly, epitomized by the seizure of white-owned farms. Meanwhile, President Uhuru Kenyatta has conveyed his deepest sympathies and condolences to the government and the people of the Republic of Zimbabwe following the death of former President Robert Gabriel Mugabe. In a statement, he said, "Words cannot convey the magnitude of the loss, as former President Robert Mugabe was an elder statesman, a freedom fighter, and a Pan-Africanist who played a major role in shaping the interest of the African continent." Indeed, we will remember former President Mugabe as a man of courage who was never afraid to fight for what he believed in, even when it was not popular, end of quote. Towards the end of his rule, he served as a rotating chairman of the 54-nation African Union and the 15-nation Southern African Development Community. His criticism of the International Criminal Court was welcomed by regional leaders who also thought it was being unfairly used to target African leaders.